Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive shift happening right now in military technology, specifically how India is fundamentally transforming its inventory. We're talking about turning vast, aging stockpiles of ordinary gravity bombs into highly lethal, precision-guided weapons. Now, if you follow defense tech, you know the headlines are almost always dominated by the launch of some flashy, enormously expensive new cruise or hypersonic missile. But today, we're looking at something way more practical and honestly, arguably much more impactful on an actual battlefield.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty tactical specs, I want you to consider this huge engineering and strategic puzzle. How exactly do you make thousands of unguided bombs smart? Militaries all over the world, and India is no exception here, sit on absolute mountains of what are colloquially known as dumb bombs, just standard unguided freefall munitions. Upgrading them rather than tossing them out and replacing them entirely, well, if you can solve that, it's an incredible force multiplier.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll kick things off with the dumb bomb dilemma, then move right into Tara, the smart upgrade. After that, we'll cover surviving enemy air defenses, break down the economics of precision, and finally, wrap things up with achieving strategic self-reliance.
All right, let's jump straight into part 1, the dumb bomb dilemma.
You know, today's battlefields are incredibly hostile. They are absolutely packed with interconnected defense systems. A modern fighter jet isn't just dodging a single isolated threat anymore. It has to somehow penetrate this dense, layered web of surface-to-air missiles, completely evade ultra-sensitive long-range radars, and navigate some truly complex electronic warfare networks.
The crucial takeaway here is that dropping a standard unguided dumb bomb practically demands that pilots fly directly into the teeth of those deadly threat zones. Because the bomb is just going to fall exactly where gravity and momentum dictate, the aircraft literally has to be right over the target to ensure any sort of accuracy. And doing that, it exposes highly trained pilots in multi-million-dollar jets to a totally unacceptable level of risk.
And that brings us perfectly to Section 2, Tara, the smart upgrade.
Enter Tara. That stands for Tactical Advanced Range Augmentation. Now, the easiest way to think of Tara is essentially as a clip-on brain and a pair of wings for a totally ordinary bomb. It's a modular glide weapon kit. It's packed with advanced navigation systems. We're talking GPS and inertial navigation, plus deployable wings. The genius here is that you don't have to build an entirely new, highly sophisticated missile from scratch. Instead, you just take this state-of-the-art, low-cost system and bolt it right onto the conventional bombs that are already sitting in your warehouses.
It really is brilliantly simple, and this upgrade cycle proves it. It's basically a straightforward 3-step process. Step 1, you pull a conventional freefall bomb out of storage. Step 2, you physically attach the modular Tara glide kit. And Step 3, you load it onto an aircraft ready to be deployed as a highly accurate precision weapon. Just like that, you're instantly making existing stockpiles way deadlier and way smarter, without needing to completely reinvent your manufacturing pipeline.
Moving on to Section 3, Surviving Enemy Air Defenses.
The contrast in survivability here is just stark. Look, a standard drop demands the aircraft fly dangerously close to the target. Again, right into those radars and SAMs. But with Tara, it gives the jet what we call standoff capability. The kit uses aerodynamic lift and its built-in guidance to travel much, much further. This means the pilot can release the weapon safely outside the most concentrated hostile air defense zones, dramatically increasing their chances of coming home safely.
And beyond just keeping the pilot safe, the system ensures maximum lethality with minimal unintended consequences. To really grasp why this is such a priority, defense analysts often point to historical strikes against terror headquarters in places like Meerut and Bahawalpur. Those high-precision strikes prove that absolute accuracy is non-negotiable for ensuring zero collateral damage. You need absolute professionalism when striking ground targets, and a system like Tara brings that exact surgical level of capability to a completely generic bomb.
All right, let's look at the bigger picture in Section 4, the economics of precision. So, if an Air Force relies entirely on cruise missiles for precision strikes, they're facing a massive expense for every single target they hit. Because they cost so much, the speed at which you can deploy them and the sheer quantity you have available are fundamentally limited. But by retrofitting existing gravity bombs with Tara, which is very similar conceptually to how the US uses JDAMs or Israel uses SPICE kits, you're operating at a drastically lower cost. You can field them faster, and most importantly, it's scalable. Rather than blowing massive budgets on a handful of expensive cruise missiles, Tara provides a cheaper, rapidly scalable precision warfare ecosystem.
I really want you to let this quote sink in for a second.
Modern wars are not won only with a handful of expensive missiles, they're won through sustained precision strike capability. This right here highlights a huge shift in India's defense strategy. Planners are looking past the shiny, headline-grabbing strategic weapons and moving toward highly practical, sustainable battlefield tech. In a prolonged conflict, you need an incredibly deep bench of smart munitions.
Which leads us perfectly to our final section, achieving strategic self-reliance.
To really understand its significance, we have to look at Tara's origins. India actually just conducted the successful maiden flight trial of the system off the Odisha coast. And here's the best part. It was designed and developed entirely domestically by the research center Imara in Hyderabad, working alongside other DRDO labs and Indian industry partners. In fact, they've already started production. Now, while India has used conversion kits before, most relied on imported tech. Tara is India's first completely indigenous glide weapon system in this category. It's a massive milestone for the Make in India initiative.
So why does having it be homegrown matter so much? Well, relying on imported precision weapons creates critical vulnerabilities. During a war, global supply chains can snap instantly. On top of that, foreign partners can suddenly impose political restrictions on how you use those weapons or simply refuse to resupply them. By advancing the mission of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliance, India directly mitigates the very real risk of wartime blockades. If you can build the brain and the wings for your bombs right at home, no one can turn off the tap when you need them most.
As we've explored today, precision warfare isn't some futuristic luxury anymore. It's the absolute baseline standard. So it leaves us with a fascinating question. Will scalable, affordable upgrades like Tara ultimately redefine battlefield dominance in future conflicts? It certainly suggests that cost-effective innovation might dictate the outcome of tomorrow's wars just as much as raw firepower. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep an eye on how these highly practical upgrades continue to reshape modern arsenals.
Welcome.